Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Thomas H. Johnson edition, and we turn now to poem 663. Again, his voice is at the door. Another master poem, as we have been referencing a number of these. By the way, Emily Dickinson loves the word door. It ends up in 72 of her poems, and let's remind ourselves that Emily Dickinson, at a point in her life, was no longer entertaining any visitors face to face, but rather through a door, sometimes closed or partially closed. Now, this is one of the most personal poems of Emily. Just count the number of times she uses the personal pronouns I, me, my. Now, the problem, of course, is, again, we don't know who the his of this poem is, but in many ways, I think we're back to 246 and 247. You'll remember when we did these two poems. Forever at his side to walk, the smaller of the two, brain of his brain, blood of his blood, two lives, one being now. Forever of his fate to taste, if grief the largest part, if joy to put my peace away for that beloved heart. All life to know each other, whom we can never learn, and by a change called heaven, wrapped neighborhoods of men, just finding out what puzzled us without the lexicon. And then the poem to follow, 247. What would I give to see his face? I give my life, of course, but that is not enough. Stop, just a minute, let me think. I give my biggest bobolink, that makes two, him and life. You know who June is, I give her roses a day from Zanzibar, and lily tubes like wells, bees by the furlong, straits of blue navies of butterflies sailed through, and dappled cowslip dells. Then I have shares in primrose banks, daffodil dowries, spicy stocks, dominions broad as dew, bags of doldrums, adventurous bees brought me from firmamental seas, and purple from Peru. Now, have I bought it, Shylock? Say, sign me the bond I vow to pay to her who pledges this 1 hour of her sovereign's face. Ecstatic contract, niggard grace, my kingdom's worth of bliss. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily's our playlist. I'm hopeful that you worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 662 poems we just finished with 662, Embarrassment of One Another. And if you have, as we just saw from 246 and 247, we'll actually reference 248 and her referencing to angels here in a little bit as well. You'll see that we're dealing with echoes from earlier poems and certainly poems to come. Now, one scholar has called this poem a strange mixture of, quote, joy and pain. Other scholars have pointed out all of the verbs and the action of this poem and the tense of this poem. Notice again, his voice is at the door. There is an immediacy to this poem which is compelling. We called our series, of course, Chats with Emily, for a number of reasons. One of them is this poem. Again, his voice is at the door. I feel the old degree, I hear him ask the servant for such an one as me. I take a flower as I go, my face to justify. He never saw me in this life. I might surprise his eye. I cross the hall with mingled steps. I silent pass the door. I look on all this world contains, just his face, nothing more. We talk in careless and in toss, a kind of plummet strain, each sounding shyly just how deep the other's one had been. We walk. I leave my dog at home. A tender, thoughtful moon goes with us just a little way, and then we are alone. Alone if angels are alone, first time they try the sky. Alone if those veiled faces be, we cannot count on high. I'd give to live that hour again, the purple in my vein, but he must count the drops himself, my price for every stain. Of course, the exclamation point at the end, we will study the exclamation points of this poem, and the use of the word again twice in the poem. I think it is the key word of the poem, and of course, the question at the very beginning and at the end of our study is, who is the his, who is being referenced at the very final lines with he. Notice capitalized. Now some have said, the scholar Miller has said, she thinks it's God. And Sewell, the biographer and scholar of Emily Dickinson, he doesn't buy it. I think it's interesting to ask who it is that prompts her to come out of her room and to meet whoever this is. Notice we begin with the voice though. Again, his voice is at the door. Notice we go from his to he to his throughout this poem. And again, 72 different poems will reference doors for Emily. Doors are one of the most powerful symbols for Emily. The thing that is about to open, and of course the thing that can be closed. And then notice all of the I's of this poem. I feel the old degree. Now, much has been made in the Johnson edition of the italicizing of these words, from degree to flower to justify to in this life. You'll see them all referenced here. And of course in the Johnson edition, we don't see a lot of this italicization happening. So this is significant maybe for us as well. Again, his voice is at the door. Notice it's not him, but it's his voice. And then of course, what door? I feel the old degree. I hear him ask the servant for such an one as me. Notice we'll go from servants to angels. For those of you that are reading this as the the afterlife poem, I take a flower as I go. So Emily's going to see him. She can hear. So she picks a flower. We think, of course, of Hamlet and Ophelia and the picking of flowers. My face to justify. Notice we go from justify to just his face. See the brilliance of the game she's playing. My face to justify. And then she says it. He never saw me in this life. Now, what life? Maybe we're talking about possibly a new life, this separation that Emily is engaged in. He never saw me in this life. I might surprise his eye. I can't read a line like this and not think of Gilman's yellow wallpaper in our study of that. I want to surprise him. This idea of surprising, notice, but it's not surprising him, it's surprising his eye. The way she looks by putting the flower in her hair. Then we're back to her actions. Notice we're kind of moving through. I cross the hall, notice capitalized, with mingled steps. You'll remember mingled from our study of 576. We'll see it only one other time in our study of 702. I dash, silent, dash, past the door. Okay, so we're back to another door again. And then notice I look on all this world contains. When we hit 772, the famous line, all is the price of all. I look on all this world contains, just, again, back to justify, his face. Notice we go from voices to face here. His face, dash, nothing more. And then again, the exclamation point. I want you to pay attention to them as we go. Now, that's the first part of the poem. In other words, she hears him, she comes, she puts the flower in her hair, now she's ready to be with him. And what's the first thing that they do? Back to our calling this series Chats with Emily. We did it for a number of reasons. One of them is now this. Notice we go from I to we. We talk in careless and in toss. It's amazing syntax here, right? As she is giving us a demonstration of her poetic power here. We talk in careless and in toss, a kind of plummet strain. You'll remember in 271, to plummetless. By the way, notice that this word here is strain, and the last word of the poem is stain. A kind of plummet strain, trying to get to the bottom, if you will. Each sounding dash shyly. The only other use of this word shy is in 106, as we saw. Just how deep, and again, notice the use of the dashes here to balance this line. The others plummet, right? One had been. It's interesting, had been, because everything in this poem is present tense. We, back to it, walk. And then all of a sudden, to make this poem even more immediate, I leave my dog at home. Now, of course, her dog, this is very personal, right? Her dog, Carlo, we mentioned it in our study of 186, our study of 500 and 520. A tender, thoughtful moon goes with us just a little way. I told you about our use of the word little in 172 poems. And then we are alone. Now, I think this is the key word of the poem, along with the word again. Again, Emily's life is a life of alone. We've commented on this many times. And then we're alone. Notice the repetition. Alone, and then if angels are alone. We mentioned that angels mentioned in 24 of her poems. You'll remember this use in 231, in 248, in 259, in 366, and in 461. We've already seen the use of angels all there. We'll see it and study it again in 1102. Of course, 248, we did 246 and 247. Let's enjoy 248 just to remind ourselves. Why do they shut me out of heaven? Did I sing too loud? But I can say a little minor, timid as a bird. Wouldn't the angels try me just once more, just see if I troubled them, but don't shut the door? Oh, if I were the gentleman in the white robe and they were the little hand that knocked, could I forbid? Notice the little hand. Notice here she says, and then we're alone. Alone if angels are alone. First time they try the sky. Can't help but think of Icarus, of course, in his wings, right? Alone if those veiled faces be. Notice in quotation marks to reference Isaiah 6:2. We, and now we're back to it, cannot count on high, exclamation point. In other words, this is the moment when together they are, and they're alone but not alone, in the same way that angels are not alone. And then the end of the poem. This is the reflection, which is in immediate time because it's all in present tense. What does she say? I'd give to live that hour again. Of course, technically, what has she just done? Of course, sharing it with us to the degree that we're almost, in a poem like this, we almost feel like voyeurs. Again, just to remind, Emily, much like Marcus Aurelius writing his meditations for himself, Emily isn't writing these poems so that you and I can look at them, study them, exegete them. Notice, she says, I'd give everything. I give to live that hour again. The purple in my vein. I'd give my life for it. But, and now to the end of the poem, right? The powerful moment. He, notice capitalized, must count the drops himself, my price for every stain. Now, of course, some have said that the he of the end of the poem is the he at the beginning of the poem. Some have argued, no, she's clearly making an observation here that God is the only one who really knows how desperately I would love to have the experience again. What I'm going to do at 2A with a poem like this, I think their message here is that it is really hard to not be with the one that we love and we long to be with again and again. At 2B, well, again, the personal nature of this poem, the I's, the me's, the my's, as well as, of course, the we's, it's quite brilliant. The other, at 3A, the other poems that we mentioned, 246, 247, 248, obviously can be working here. Finally, at 3B, to own a poem like this, when was a time you were with the one you loved? And what would you give to be able to return to that again? I hope Emily's challenging you. Thank you.